Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Season 2 obviously included a lot of new meta updates and weapon updates across the board. It added in some new weapons, changed some of the current meta ones, and so today I wanted to go through and break down the new preliminary top 10 best loadouts you want to be running here in the new season. As we get into it, if you enjoy the video, if you find it helpful at all, do me a favor, drop a like on it. And of course, if you're new to the channel or you simply have not subscribed yet, every single day I got you covered with news, updates, patch notes, meta breakdowns. It's all right here, so feel free to hit that subscribe button to always stay up to date. So real quick, as always, perks and equipment's going to be the same on every single loadout, so we'll just run through that real quick here. Smokes, still super clutch. Nothing's really changed with these. I've been running them for the past several seasons, still getting the job done just fine. For my lethal here, I'm always back and forth, quite frankly. If you're playing Resurgence right now, obviously, knives are going to be the go-to for those insta finishes. That said, frags, if you're not a fan of the throwing knives for the instant finishes, or maybe you just want to use something else, frags would be my first choice now. They got buffed with this update. These things are lethal. If you know how to time the explosions right, they're gonna be crazy. Semtexes are also a great choice as well, but I really got my eye on these post update for sure. Perk package, no real changes here. Mountaineer, because less fall damage is always better. We got double time for that better attack, sprint tempered so I can play it up quicker. I'm always also going for a medic vesting game whenever possible. And then I go for flex, obviously getting that slightly better footstep audio, even though they did update it a little bit with season 2, as much as they'll probably change it in the future as well. Anything that helps hear footsteps better is obviously going to be better, so of course we're running that as well. Now, initially focusing on weapons for the rest of the video, this first loadout, it is a banger, the Bas-B, and this was actually nerfed, but mainly for the close range. For long range gunfights, this is still really solid. HRM9 is the secondary here. Fantastic SMG as well. Now, initially here on the Bas-B, couple of things I want to point out. Overall, the long range setup is not changing all that much. Still running the 2.5 times optic, the 45 round mag, Bruen heavy underbarrel, obviously better horizontal control, better gun kick, better stability as well. We also got the Venom long barrel for better range, better velocity, and better control. Now, this is a bit of a heavier recoil option in the game, and that's why Jack BFB has been sort of the go-to option for some time now. However, they did nerf the Jack BFB pretty seriously with season 2, mainly in the form of velocity. Now, they made it do less for your control and it adds in more penalties for your ADS and your sprint to fire, but the big deal here is that 18% reduction to velocity across the board. So for long range builds now, the Jack BFB is not all that great if you care about velocity. 715 is not phenomenal. Now, for Resurgence, this is a setup that could be viable, but for standard gameplay, I would probably drop the Jack BFB, maybe throw on a Spirit Fire Suppressor, or I'd be going for something like the Cassis Break instead, which focuses a ton on horizontal control and really makes your visual recoil a lot more predictable there, the general pattern as well, and just keeps it a little bit more consistent. So you might want to opt for something like that now post-update instead. Then for the HRM, funny enough, I'll have a different alternative HRM loadout towards the end of the video, but I had changed mine up before season 2 hit, and then they slightly nerfed the damage range on the HRM, which made me sort of revert to my original setup here, which is no stock because it gives us crazy good mobility and a better ADS and sprint to fire. The 50 round drum, obviously, that's a no-brainer. I'm back on the Princeps long barrel. I had switched over to Thorn, and the second setup today will feature this, but with them nerfing the first damage range, I want to have the best range possible for that effective damage range, and obviously Princeps extends that, so that's going to be pretty clutch there. I am still using Jack BFB on my close range guns that need it, just because losing velocity in close range SMG style fights, not really a huge deal. It's a little bit slower than before, but it is what it is. I've also updated to the DR6 hand stop here. Honestly, all these underbarrels are good. Choke angle is pretty solid. Edge BW4, MSP98, all of these you can get by with using as well, but really any mobility benefits there are going to be solid. So HRM kind of back and forth with the setup, but we'll feature another one a bit later on. Now, Loadout 2, one that I'm enjoying a lot right now. We've got the SVA and the brand new Ram 9 SMG. This thing's a banger for close range. It's fast, it's agile, it's aggressive. SVA, arguably the best rifle in the game now because they did nerf the Ram 7. This was not touched. It is a laser beam. You could use this in full auto, and that's basically what I do just because it's easy. If you wanted to use this in semi-auto too, though, it's got like no recoil, and that hyperburst feature makes it pretty crazy as well. 2.5 times optic, 60 round mag. I've got the precision barrel on here, better range, better velocity, better control, better pizza Papa John's as always. Spirit Fire Suppressor as always as well. Then for full auto, I am going for the Bruen Heavy Support Underbarrel once more. If you're strictly going semi-auto with the Hyper Burst, I'd probably drop that, throw on like a Stalker or even a laser sight if you wanted to for some better mobility, because there's not really any recoil when you're just hyper bursting there. But yeah, SVA, really good rifle now. And then for the Ram 9 secondary, we talked about this setup a bit ago when we just broke down our new weapons, but this thing is fast and it's aggressive and it kills quick up close. So I am going for the Sonic Suppressor still. I've been experimenting around with this loadout and it just does feel really consistent to me. We're extending that initial effective damage range pretty well there. I also go for the DR6 hand stop in this case. I am a little tempted to try and throw on the Imperator barrel here and there. It does help out with the range a little bit. It hurts your control, but if you can really get it down, I feel like this could be worth swapping out for maybe our stock or our rear grip. I do have a 50 round extended mag on there. For the rear grip, I'm going for the Retort 90 grip tape, which is actually better control at the cost of idle sway, which is not a big deal in close range gunfights, obviously. Then I go for the Motion Tac Pad stock. This helps out with some ADS speed. Ultralight stock is also really good. No ADS speed, but mobility benefits everywhere else. Strafe speed, movement speed. So it's kind of like a pick your poison scenario there. But like I said, for what it's worth, you could try and mix in the Imperator barrel here if you're interested in maybe a little bit more range at the cost of some control for sure. Loadout 3 features our other new weapon for Season 2, the BP-50, which is a pretty decent mid to long range rifle for sure. You could also mix it up and use it for sniper support. And then also the Striker, the base Striker SMG, one of the most forgiving SMGs in the game. You can hit leg shots or upper body shots and still basically have the same TTK, which is something that's super unique to this weapon and this weapon alone. I also find it super easy to use, so I just go for the Shadow Strike Suppressor here. Keeps me off the map, and that's it. Nice and convenient, right? DR6 hand stop for the better mobility, 7 milliwatt laser for the better mobility. If you wanted to go even crazier though, you could go for the RYL33. It's a lot more visible, but also gives you better ADS and sprinted fire for what it's worth. 48 round mag is totally sufficient for me on there. Then I go for the light stock, better mobility in the terms of movement speed in general, and then also sprint speed. So this thing's aggressive, it's quick, I like the irons on it, it's a really solid SMG. Then for the BP-50, this build's really meant for the mid to long range. You could even use this as sniper support though if you wanted to. Some sniper loadouts are coming up, so stay tuned. Initially though, Spirit Fire Suppressor, it's a super easy weapon to use. So something like Jack BFB or even Cassis Break or some of the other compensators, a little bit overkill in my opinion. This thing's a laser beam. I got the lower 9 heavy barrel, better range, better velocity, better control, 3-in-1 as always. 45 round mag is the real limiter here. That's super small for this fire rate. The damage per mag is not phenomenal, so definitely something to be mindful of as you jump into gameplay with it. Elo sight's pretty good here with the MK3 reflector. Slate, a 2.5 times Eagle Eye would also be good. Just comes down to preference there, really. And then I really like the Moat 40 stock. This is helping out with control, but then also ADS speed and strafe speed. So some really good pros to make it a lot more versatile and not really any major cons, to be honest. So really fun setup here for sure. Now, I mentioned some sniper setups. We've arrived at one here. Now, I also mentioned the Ram 7 was nerfed. They really hit its long range, making it a little bit less efficient there. However, for sniper support, the Ram is still really effective, and conveniently enough, the same setup that I've been running for a bit as like a do-it-all setup works really well for sniper support as well. So I got the Spirit Fire Suppressor on here, the Core Mark 40 heavy barrel range, velocity, and control, Bruen heavy underbarrel for even better control and even better stability, the 60 round drum, and then I go for the 3.4 pad stock. This is better control all across the board. So it makes this iron sight build really accurate, very low recoil. It's also pretty aggressive, all things considered, and it pairs really well with the more dominant snipers. For instance, one of the best snipers in the game is still the KATT. This was not adjusted really at all with Season 2. So for a one-shot sniper, this is still going to be a fantastic choice. All we care about here really is velocity. I like the Nightfall Suppressor a little bit more than some other ones just because it's not killing my ADS and it's giving me some decent velocity. We're over 1,000 and that's good enough for sure. Zang Barrel, better velocity as well. High velocity for, you'll never guess it, better velocity. And then I also have the tac pad stock on there for a faster ADS speed. Then just behind the face cam, I've got the quick bolt as well, just so I can get shots off a little bit faster. It takes down that time in between shots. So if you want a screenshot, I'll go ahead, hide the face cam for you there. But yeah, the KATT's still a phenomenal one-shot sniper option. But it's now no longer the only one-shot sniper option. They've actually updated the XRK Stalker to one-shot within its first damage range. So what we're focused on with this build in specific is making sure that damage range is about as good as it gets. And if we use this suppressor barrel on here, the Stoic 4, it's going to extend that damage range to 61 meters and give us an 1100 velocity. So this is going to be solid. It'll one-shot to the head within 61 meters. They also just updated it so you can unlock the no stock option through the armory. So go ahead, queue that up, and you get a great ADS speed. It's nice and aggressive there. Also, just behind the face cam, I go for the light bolt for the better rechambering speed, just like over on the KATT, basically. I've got the Stalker factory grip for a faster aim down sight speed. Then I do go for the 7-round mag just so I don't have to reload in an inconvenient spot. 7 rounds is going to be fine there. You can definitely mess around with various different builds, and again, if you want the full screenshot there with the bolt in there, go ahead and take that. But you can definitely mess around with certain builds here. You know, other barrels will be decent enough for extending the range and velocity. Some, like technically Fission 60, gives you a couple extra meters in your range, and you might be able to drop that, you know, pair that with a different muzzle that's going to extend the range as well. So you could go for something like a Nightfall and extend that out to nice 69 meters for a potential one shot on there. And, you know, maybe go ahead and drop the 7-round mag in that case if you wanted to. So you can experiment around a lot. I found the snappiest build to be the original one, but there are different alternatives that are going to work well if you're really just focused on getting the best one-shot range possible. Then as a complement to this, I'm liking the Chimera. There's a lot of different good sniper support options. The AMR9 is really solid. The Ram 7, as mentioned. There's a couple of other rifles that are decent. The Chimera, though, is snappy and aggressive and has a really good TTK in the close range. They also just buffed all the MW2 rifles with their movement, so this is going to be pretty solid now. MK3 reflector here, basic elo sight, nice and convenient. 45-round extended mag's really solid in there. I like the angled underbarrel on a lot of weapons that are already pretty aggressive because it's going to help out that horizontal, and this is a relatively easy weapon to use. So no gun kick pros here, not a big deal. Vertical con, not a big deal, and it doesn't hurt your ADS speed like some other underbarrels would, so that's pretty clutch there. Vorpal barrel, better range, better movement, not really something you ever see paired, and that's nice and convenient. And then I like the Shadow Strike suppressor here. You could also go for Spirit Fire. You could go for Sonic as well if you wanted to extend that range and that velo a little bit. Plenty of good options here for like a nice sniper support style build. The velocity is really not crazy. That's the only downside of this, but other than that, it's a really fun sniper support option. Hey everyone, quickly wanted to give a shout out to my friends over at G Fuel. We've got our in-game metas that we of course talk about all the time, but we also got to show some love to the out-of-game metas as well. And the most effective tactic available, the meta for staying focused and energized, is picking up some G Fuel. They got a little bit of something for everyone in terms of flavors, but my personal favorites, Hype Sauce, the GOAT. They also just brought back Watermelon Mint, which is absolutely incredible. And lately, I've also been loving the new Sage Mode Hydration Tub as well. There's no caffeine in that, just perfect for staying hydrated. And if you do want to pick up anything for yourself, be sure to throw in code IMMORTAL at checkout for a nice little discount. The link for that will be down below if you're interested. Now, Loadout 6, one that's definitely going to sort of indirectly rise in terms of overall efficiency because it features the DG58 LSW LMG. They nerfed the Pilum Yacht conversion kit. For long range, it's not really anything all that crazy anymore. A lot of LMGs like the DG got indirectly buffed because of this. This thing's low recoil, it's easy to use, hits hard, got a fast TTK. I love it. So Spirit Fire suppressor initially here, no surprises there. The Woody long barrel offers better range, velocity, and control, and some better idle sway as well. Bruen heavy support underbarrel, of course, 2.5 times optic. And then I go for the butt plate, the CQC butt plate, for some better mobility, because this is already such a laser beam that I can get some better mobility out of this and make it feel a little bit less LMG-like, right? If we can make it more of a hybrid AR LMG, that's a W in my book. Really enjoy this setup. I pair it with the Striker 9, one of my favorite SMGs lately. This build in particular is so fun. Jack BFB, a little overkill, I won't lie, but it's a laser beam at the same time. And again, the velocity in this deal is not really a huge deal just because we're fighting up close as is. Striker long barrel, better velocity and range only here. Hurts your mobility and your hip fire. Not really a huge deal though, considering we also have no stock on here for crazy good mobility stats. I go for the Night Hour optic, just makes me nice and extra accurate. And then the 50-round mag here, you definitely want, it's got a fast fire rate, but boy does it fry. Its TTK is very, very competitive. So don't sleep on this. Well, yes, the AMR9 is good, the HMR9 is good, the new Ram 9 is good. A lot of 9s in here. This is another great 9 option, the Striker 9. And we got another SMG, the Wasp 9. Oh, they're not super creative with the names, but this got buffed with Season 2. Even better, I already loved it pre-update. I love the feel of this post-update now. Pairing this with the Holger, we just talked about this the other day. Also a laser beam LMG, low recoil, indirectly better because it did not get affected with Season 2's updates. Very basic setup here though, Spirit Fire suppressor, the factory barrel, which is going to be range, velocity, and control, Bruen heavy underbarrel, 2.5 times optic, and then it just sounds cool, the Ascent Lord stock. better control basically is what we're getting out of that. So this thing's deadly accurate, very easy to use, and not all that slow for being an LMG build. Then my Wasp 9 build, I find this to be a relatively easy weapon to use, so I do just go for Shadow Strike Suppressor. Again, Sonic would be a decent option as well if you're okay with the slightly slower sprint to fire. Hand stop on here, speed me up across the board, movement speed, ADS speed, ADS strafe speed, sprint to fire, we love all of that. It's a pretty slow fire rate, so like 40 rounds is totally fine. Even for like quads, it's not a big deal. But if you wanted to jump up to 50, feel free to do so. No wrong answers there. Iron Sight's bit too bulky for me, so I go for the Elo sight. I'm nice and accurate with that. And then the factory stock on here, better mobility across the board as well. So this thing's gonna be feeling better than ever post-update. I love to see that. Next up, as I talked about earlier, the AMR9. It's feeling great for the close range. Really slow sprint to fire, unfortunately, for an SMG, but we basically go all in on the sprint to fire and get it to a point where it's usable. Initially, Shadow Strike Suppressor, I don't want to slow anything down here. It's decently easy with this setup, albeit, so not having extra control here or not having a worse ADS speed, it's still going to be just fine, right? Skeletal vertical grip is super clutch because it helps out with your ADS speed and your sprint to fire, and actually helps out with some recoil as well. Now, it hurts your horizontal only a little bit, so it's not a deal breaker. 3% is not a huge deal, and it's pretty easy to use in the close range horizontally as is. 50 round drum here, pretty basic, all things considered there. We got the reflector sight yet again. The irons here, kind of hit or miss. I don't mind them, but if I want to be extra accurate, this is a go-to. Then I go for the buffer tube stock here. All in on mobility, helping out a lot with that sprint to fire yet again. So if we can get this thing snappy and aggressive, that's a W in my book when it comes down to it. Pairing this with the Bruen, it's a low recoil, hard-hitting LMG over long range. Really one of the best choices in the game. Its damage drop-offs really are not all that harsh whatsoever. Again, a pretty basic setup though. Spirit Fire Suppressor, Horizon Barrel for better velocity and control. No added range here, but you could always also swap on over to the Ferocity one if you're okay with not having extra control here. You could pair this with a Bruen heavy support and it's still going to be pretty easy to use. Just comes down to your preference and your level of comfortability with it though. No wrong answer there. 60 round mag, 2.5 times Eagle Eye Optic. Like I said, pretty straightforward, but hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Now, surprisingly, the TAC Evolvere got some pretty significant buffs, all things considered, with Season 2. I still don't think it's the craziest LMG in the world, but this is more so my experimental loadout here. We got the HMR9 as the secondary. This is my alternative setup to it that I've also really been enjoying. But if you want something that is very, very easy to use and hits decently, the Evolvere is up there now for sure. So Spirit Fire Suppressor here. We go for the Righteous Long Barrel, range, velocity, control, and whatnot. We also got the Hound 9G underbarrel here. This is not your average LMG. It doesn't have all the same ones as before. Now, Skeletal could be a decent option if you're okay with speeding it up but losing a little bit of horizontal control. But for me, Hound 9G is fun. It's pretty minimal cons, 6% to ADS, 9% across the board for control. It's going to be deadly accurate. 2.5 times optic, and then also the Bombardier stock, better control just in general there for very minimal cons yet again. So definitely a pretty big buff to the Evolvere. Nice to see for sure, adding in some more variety since we saw some other LMGs sort of fall out. Then for this alternative HMR9 meta, really all I'm changing here is the stock and the barrel. So still rocking Jack BFB. I just go for the Thorn 90 barrel just because it speeds it up so much. It's nice and snappy and aggressive there. 50 round drum. I do use the Assault Rear Grip for some better control just because we're not getting that necessarily out of the Princeps barrel or anything like that. And then also I go for the light stock here instead of no stock. Again, just to keep it manageable. We're not going to be as snappy, but it's also not slowing us down because we don't have a heavy barrel on here. So bit of an alternative setup here, a little bit more aggressive, doesn't have the same range values, but for running and gunning, it feels really good. And then lastly, here we've got the Holger 5.56, one of the other assault rifles that is certainly usable for sure, especially over long range. It's feeling nice and consistent, really reliable and easy to use here. The only downside is that it's only a 40 round mag max, so your damage per mag kind of sucks, but if you can be laser accurate with this, you're gonna be okay, right? 2.5 times optic. I go for the angled underbarrel here instead of Bruen heavy just because this is so easy to use. Don't really feel like I need to hurt the ADS speed more if I can control it just fine with this. If you need the upgrade though, go for Bruen heavy. Cryo 6 match barrel, range, velocity, and control. Spirit Fire Suppressor, pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. Then I pair this with the Swarm. It's still feeling really good in those first, 6 to 8 meters or so. Thing is nasty. I am still using the Jack BFB in this case because really, why not? I've got this thing built out for aggression and speed. Having that extra control on there is nice to, back it up and make sure I'm gonna be accurate when I need to be. I do use the long barrel here. It does extend that damage range to 8 meters, so that fast TTK will be applicable all the way out to there. Hand stop for the better mobility. 100 round drum because why not, right? right? It's just so fun to spray and pray this. And then also the Nidar model 2023 optic on there. Yet again, elo sight would work fine, slate would work fine as well. But overall, I mean, between all these loadouts, you got some fantastic options. If you want to mix and match, a lot of these are interchangeable. Maybe sub some of the sniper support options. There's a lot of really good options in the meta right now. We will have a full-on meta breakdown of all the absolute meta options, competitive top tier garbage coming up in the next couple of days. So stay tuned for that alongside everything else going on in COD by hitting that subscribe button. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.